Welcome to Volume 11 RockTalk PodCast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music. Your hosts, Rich Hoffa, Rik Lawhorne, and Mark Dunn. RockTalk Volume 11 Music.
Try to get my serious on for this podcast.
This is as serious as I get.
Yeah,
That's
we're
right.
goofing off too much.
So hey, it's we're here. It's us. We're here at Volume 11 Music in Fredericksburg, Virginia for Rock Talk. I'm Rich.
Rik Lawhorne.
Mark Dunn.
Yeah. So last week we missed an episode. We went to record and had a little bit of technical difficulty with the camera and an app that they were no longer supporting. So we got all that figured out, and we're back, and we're gonna talk about our first concert that we went to, and then maybe one that just really kind of blew us away that we still remember, and stuff like that. So I guess anybody want to start it off?
Go
ahead, Rick.
All right, I want to go back here. My Howard Cosell voice. July 4th weekend, 1975. That was when Howard was still actively announcing. I'm a little kid. We go to Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. I'm not playing music at this point. I was definitely more into the Flintstones and the Rolling Stones at that point in my life. And so we go up to Hershey Park, and my parents, we go in there, and they have a little spot where they have concerts. So there's Sha-Na-Na.
Oh, my
Sha-Na-Na, that was my first concert. It was probably like July 3rd, 1975.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now again, I didn't really know much about music. Of
So watch
course,
those guys on TV.
yeah, I guess the TV show had just gotten going.
Yeah,
and of course it
Saturday
progressed,
nights.
right?
Yeah.
Saturday night, Sha-Na-Na, a lot of 50s based music. They were actually at Woodstock with Hendrix.
That's
believe it or
right.
not. I remember that.
That's right.
Kind of an
Yeah.
odd pairing. You got Hendrix and you got Sha-Na-Na, but it was
Right.
cool. It was all good stuff. But I had a great time, and I didn't know much about music back then, but I just knew everybody was being entertained. It was a fun time, and there was all good, no bad. So that was my very first official concert ever, 1975, Sha-Na-Na.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, the John Bowser there. Right?
That's it.
Oh, John was his first name?
John Bowser.
it was just Bowser.
He went by Bowser on the
Yeah.
show, but his real name is John Bowser.
Yeah.
Sha-Na-Na.
Yeah, so me, yeah.
Sure.
So my first concert was Judas Priest.
Going way.
I was it was
Miles apart here.
Defenders of the Faith up at the Capitol Center.
They should have had Sha-Na-Na open.
Yeah, right. Well,
Sha-Na-Na opening for Judas Priest.
oh
That
man,
would
I
be
tell
a
you
good
what,
one,
it was
man.
crazy because they were shooting that documentary,
Yep.
Decline of the Western
I remember that,
Civilization.
the documentary
there.
about heavy metal.
We didn't know
music.
that they were there. Just years later, I was at that concert, and so it was general admission, and
Those were the fun days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I tell you what. So the indoor stadium was a hockey stadium or basketball or whatever, but they didn't put any seats down in the
Right,
lower level.
Washington
Center?
Capitals
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
Washington
yeah.
Bullets.
Yeah.
There's still the Bullets back there for basketball.
So we sat outside all day long. Got up there super early, sat outside all day long in the sun, waiting to get in there. And then they, it was hours and hours and hours. And they finally let us in.
Yeah.
We make a beeline down to the stage. And so we're running down there, and we get as close to the stage as we could. And of course, first concert, you don't think much about it. But not only was I 4 or 5 feet away from the stage, but I was also 4 or 5 feet away from the PA speakers.
Oh.
So, Great White comes out, they're doing Stick It, and it was great. And of course, Judas Priest was unbelievable. I mean, it was great, the motorcycle and all the stuff. And we were standing on KK Downing's side. But
That's house left, stage right.
yeah. So it was just really cool. Bad part was just standing there for hours. Not to mention was I all sweated up and all that stuff, but I couldn't move when it was time to leave because my legs wouldn't work. And we get out of there, and then it was my freshman year in high school, and for the first week, because of standing that close to speakers, I couldn't hear what the teacher said. It was just
Yeah, like the Charlie Brown
I couldn't hear
episode.
anything. I was like trying to read their lips because my ears were so damaged from the concert.
And Rob Halford's screams probably didn't
oh
help
my
any,
gosh,
I'm sure.
man, he was hitting those
That dude's
notes.
still hitting
He
those
still hits some
Yeah.
screams, and
Yeah.
he can bring the metal.
Yeah, that was my first concert. It was pretty cool. How about you, Mark?
I think I'm somewhere in between, but well closer to Rick's side. September 26, 1979, at the Norfolk Scope, the Bee Gees.
Bee Gees.
Oh wow!
And it was.
I used to like the Bee Gees.
I'm sorry.
I like the Bee Gees.
Oh
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it. It's
crazy.
They were great.
And they, and I knew all the old stuff because I'm the youngest in the family, and the music was always on, and that was a favorite. I would literally go put the albums on if Mom would tell me to.
Yeah.
And start up. So my dad was a police officer at the Little Creek Amphibious Base, which is now Joint Fleet, whatever, down there in Norfolk. And so special services, with the entire Navy, we went on a Saturday, I think in June. It was out of school or just at the end of the school year. My mom and I waited in line, and they opened up, and I think we got the tickets. Each one was like $12 or $14.
Yeah.
Which, you don't have a relation to what that is, but right now it just seems laughable.
It does.
My Spotify bill is $14. But so.
I think my priest kit ticket was only $18.
What?
Yeah.
Metal concerts
$18
back
to
then weren't.
$24.
Yeah, they weren't that
Yeah,
expensive.
All the way up into the 90s, it was when they hit the 2000s. But I'll never forget that. But the money and the fact that it was one of 33 shows only in the United States, and they came to Norfolk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is really interesting because, what is Norfolk market-wise? 120, 130th in the nation. But so, we went. And I remember that when they opened, the first song was Tragedy. That's the first song on the Spirits Having Fun record, I think. And so, and the cool thing about it was the Sweet Inspirations opened up, which was Elvis's band, and Sissy Houston just passed away. She was in the Sweet Inspirations, Whitney's mom.
Right.
But when my first concert, it's always been a lot different than this. So the band just kind of meandered out with the house lights up and everything. And even though it was a long time ago, I remember it like it was yesterday, when the snare hit, to count the song in, the lights went down. All at the same time, and then the song kicked off. So there wasn't like the lights go down, the anticipation.
Yeah. Right.
It was one of the slickest intros, if not the slickest intro I've ever seen. And in the song where it builds up and holds that note, and you hear the explosion in the song.
Yeah,
they blew the stage up, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I thought something seriously went wrong. As a 9-year-old going,
Difficult.
Oh my God! That's when I realized everything was okay. I still couldn't change my underwear.
Yeah.
True story.
That's crazy. Yeah. So Rick, what's so we're going later on. You got into music and stuff. What concert that you went to that just really blew you away? It was like something you were just it was all back.
That's such a great question because I like, as I've said in some of the past episodes, all kinds of music. But a lot of rock-oriented music is probably closest to my heart. But I've seen great jazz artists. I've seen classical music. I've seen all the big rockers, all the big, heavy metal bands. Probably my favorite, though, thinking back, it was my wife, Rose Lawhorne, and she's an amazing woman, amazing person, and she's a big fan of the Eagles, as I am as well. And back in 2007, they basically were getting ready to put out their first new album that they hadn't put out in a long time as a studio record, Long Road Out of Eden. And they were playing a few shows out in Los Angeles. So we decided, let's buy tickets and go see the Eagles. So we went out to Los Angeles, California. This was in 2007. The brand new Nokia Theater, I believe it's now the Peacock Theater. I think they renamed it, probably NBC affiliation, I guess. But it was brand new. I think it was one of the first events there. So this would have been October 2007. And it was just such an amazing experience. Every aspect of it. It was such a great time. We're in downtown, Los Angeles, California. And you've got the Eagles. And the vocals, I had never heard anything live quite like that perfect. I've seen a lot of bands, I've heard a lot of great singers, but that was still with Glenn Frey, and was still singing, and then Don Henley, of course, and just the blend of the harmonies and hearing all those classic Eagles songs. Of course, they had some newer songs as well. The sound was probably the best I've ever heard from anybody as far as the production. It was like listening to a CD, but they weren't using backing tracks, they weren't cheating. We know a lot of that's going on nowadays with a lot of different acts out there. It was really them up there playing, performing, giving a great hour and 40-minute concert of just perfection, every aspect of it. And of course, Joe Walsh, one of the coolest guys ever, one of my heroes. I love Joe. So it was just such an amazing experience, and it's one of those memories I'm going to remember forever and I'm going to cherish forever. But I've seen many, many, many great shows. But Eagles, 2007, Nokia.
Something else, man.
Yeah, harmonies.
We always talk about who's the next Eagles,
Really, you don't hear harmonies like that in rock music as far as the famous bands. I mean, there's probably a band out there in a log cabin in Montana somewhere doing it, but like the main bands you hear, you don't hear Eagles harmony.
I really think that they were like, if you were going to classify Americana, whatever that actually is,
right?
I would consider them to be the first.
I give it a double thumbs up.
They're so far in the countryside, and then so far in the rock side.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of soul here and there too on a few of those songs. They did one of these nights, the long run. That's got that whole Memphis soul kind of thing going on. So they brought a lot of cool elements.
Yeah. So my first concert blew me away. I was getting, I was still really young, and I was getting into, the different rock music and stuff. And growing up here in Washington D.C., you always heard about this band Kix out of Hagerstown, and so I went and bought some of the albums and stuff, and just really started getting into what was coming out in high school and stuff. And then I used to roadie for one of the bigger bands around here before I started playing in bands, and the sound man he ran sound for him at one time, and he's like talking about these guys are just fantastic and all this stuff. So when I got a chance to go see him, the first time I went and seen him was at the Bayou in Washington D.C. And great place to go see a concert, because it's it was 2 levels, and they got the stage and all that stuff, and so we're in there, and the place is just sold out. It's packed, and that's the way all their shows were in DC.
They sold out everywhere.
And you get in there, and you're sitting there, and you got the opening bands. I don't even remember who opens for them, and all of a sudden, Kix comes out, and it's just like this massive amount, like a fist punch right in the face, the way these guys had come out, and just unbelievable stage show, everything with all their moves and everything, and the singing, the vocals, and harmonies, and just the stage show in general. I remember, it always brings me back. They would do all these different things. And they had this strobe light, and some of the songs they'd start flickering that strobe light, and the guys would start running around and stuff, and they would run to the middle and jump up and hit each other, and it was like it was weird, just the effect of it, the way it landed down. So I was just sitting there, the whole time going, wow, this is unbelievable. And then of course, everybody that was there knew every lyric to every song, and the crowd sings as loud as the band is when they're playing.
I've been to a few Kix shows.
And needless to say, I've seen them probably close to 100 times. So, I really enjoyed the show.
They're always amazing live. I've seen a handful of times. It was always excellent. Like a 5-hour energy drink in a can is what they basically are live.
Well, it's like I always said, it was like it was like going to New Year's Eve, a really good New Year's Eve party every concert. With the balloons and all the confetti and all the stuff that they used to do. They were just
very consistent live. You don't really hear like, they sound like garbage when I hear them.
I've seen bands in multiple times, and I can't remember a time that I go, they were a little off tonight. They just weren't. They were just so professional. Just an awesome band.
Cool.
But how about you? Who was your blown away concert?
Just blew your mind.
It's going to be the last band you would think of for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And but when I've gone to shows where I've been excited for the show, often I've been disappointed even with my favorite bands, because everybody's human and they have good days and bad days.
Yeah, that does happen.
So, but any show I wanted to go to, I expected a good time, and even if it wasn't that great, it's still I went to. Well, I had a free ticket to this show in 1987.
87. Okay.
And it was at William and Mary Hall, and I only went because I was offered a free ticket. And it was REM and 10,000 Maniacs, and I could have given a crap about REM at the time. Not a hater, but
just wasn't really your number one band, go-to band.
It was one of those things that if I felt like at that point as a teenager in my guitar playing, if I could tell what you were playing without having to sit down and learn, I probably wasn't interested.
Right.
So, no offense to Peter Buck, because he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that was my mindset, and that's what REM was in essence for me. So I will tell you that they came out, and I felt like I was watching The Who.
Oh, wow.
And the 10,000 Maniacs opened up. And this, speaking of general admission, this was the last general admission show REM ever did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of crazy stuff was going on down front. But I will tell you that it was also where I learned that there were a lot of good-looking women that went to the REM concert. So that might be a genre that I might want to be a little bit more open-minded to. And I saw, it was college and college girls running around, and it was at Women Married College, and it was for as raucous of a show as it was, and every song was just super intense. It was a great crowd, and I've gone to some of the heavier rock shows.
Yeah.
Somebody usually wound up saying the wrong thing to somebody and something bad would happen. But it blew me away. And it was also, I think, that was definitely the first show I ever saw a band have a screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they were running video behind them, but not live concert video.
Right.
Content video.
Okay.
So when they did It's the End of the World, they had the video running.
All the things, yeah.
And they encored with Midnight Blue by Lou Gramm.
Wow. Okay.
One of the best shows. I was totally blown away.
Yeah.
Cool.
I still never have bought a record from them.
Right.
But not as a hater, but that show in that moment.
They just did it.
Yeah, it was like, what? It was very entertaining.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Rock Talk. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you like the content and you have any questions, feel free to email us, and we'll be glad to get it into one of the episodes and give you our point of view on things. And don't forget to support your local music stores and your local musicians. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Rock Talk.
See ya.
This has been an episode of Volume 11 Rock Talk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music.